Welcome to PulpMythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer and Larry, and we're going to be discussing a film called Raw. It's a French film from 2016, horror film. Before we get started, if you've not hit the sub button, please do so. We do a lot of different reviews and different kind of content on this channel. Dexter's coming up, Wheel of Time. Those are some shows we're looking to do. Big Sky, we do Big Sky weekly whenever it airs. So yeah, we're going to talk about Raw. I knew the moment that the lead character started scratching her skin and have that breakout. And full spoilers, by the way. I knew I knew that I was like, oh shit, Larry's going to have a problem. Because the body horror in this movie is very strong. It's very disturbing. It's not for everyone. I'm going to say up front, I really enjoyed the film, but this is not a movie for everybody. I would not recommend this to everybody. We'll tell you who we would recommend it to during the course of
it'd
this.
Be Drew's too.
Say what?
I said it'd be Drew's favorite movie too.
Yeah.
He hates it.
But I just wanted to open with that. Like, there are certain sequences in this movie that are so uncomfortable and just, get under your skin. I got legitimately a little nauseous in one scene.
Oh yeah, there's some rough ones. The one in particular you're talking about, I'm gripping my finger as you were describing the body horror because of it. It's just.
But yeah, what did y'all? How would you measure this in terms of it? Yeah, making you feel sick or too much to handle, or how you would decide in terms of who you would recommend it to or not.
Well, first of all, I'd like to start by saying apparently I'm really fucked up because none of those parts bothered me. It's Brian, like he texted me and said, hey, this is reminiscent of some of the old movies we used to watch, and I've mentioned it on other recordings that we talked about where we used to watch 1-star movies on Netflix when they used to do the star system and stuff, and we used to watch some really awful movies, and we had some bootleg copies of some movies I'm not going to name just so I don't completely
I got one.
Yeah. So there's a couple that like I've watched and it's uncomfortable. The Witch was uncomfortable. Like it unsettled me, which is what I like in a horror movie. So like this movie itself, there were scenes where I felt unsettled, and there's just, and I won't go too much into the body horror part yet because I know we're gonna get there, but there's one scene where she's at that party and the camera's like zooming into her and she's sitting at the back of the room and she has this like smile on her face, and the score was great. So it unsettled me, but as far as made me uneasy with the body horror stuff, I was all about it. It was great.
Yeah, I almost noped out at that one scene that we're avoiding talking about right now. A lot of it, I managed to sit through, and I managed to sit through the whole thing. I didn't know, like early on when we got to, sort of the reveal of what's going on, and it got fairly graphic. The scene right after what you mentioned, Brian, with the scratching at the skin and everything. But yeah, other than that, it being unnerving and stuff, I do like that. I just like, usually when y'all are watching something that's heavy on body horror, well, you know this for a fact, usually that's where I'm out, but I managed to sit through this, and it was enjoyable. So I guess I could recommend it to most people we're friends with, at least.
Yeah,
that's a big A+ to this movie. If Larry was able to sit through it because the movie was good enough for him to get past some of the super graphic body horror parts, well, to me that's a testament to this movie.
It is, and I think that's the thing that I really liked about it, was that not only did you you have the horrible graphic stuff, but there's an actual story, and there's the idea of growing up and trying, joining this school and trying to fit in. There's the whole dynamic with the sister, trying to figure out who you are. There's a lot of little things happening in the film as well, and the story is very well told. The film was made, it's a 2016 film. It is French. It is all subtitled. You have to read the if you don't speak French. But the movie when you think about cannibal, it's a cannibal film, and typically you sort of have your three styles of cannibal film. You have your sort of Texas Chainsaw Massacre type, where it's like our Wrong Turn, Hills Have Eyes, style film. You have your like Green Inferno, where it's like, oh, a tribe and some jungle, and then you have which is almost a genre in itself, Hannibal. Sort of the more sophisticated, um, a character that looks down on humanity as a treat to enjoy. And then this film is a little different, and I want to. It was described in a couple of reviews as a mix between Ginger Snaps and Suspiria, and Suspiria being a film about a young woman going to a ballet school, and Ginger Snaps is a film about two sisters becoming werewolves and having to deal with that. And this film felt more like that than a typical cannibal film because, and like I said, full spoilers, it's more so they're becoming something different, or they are something different than just a person. And it's almost like a monster movie in that, right? Sort of like a vampire film or a werewolf film without all the effects and actually shape shifting. How do you guys feel about
Oh yeah,
that?
yeah, absolutely. That's how I describe it. Like you said, it was like they were monsters. Like I got the feeling for the movie that this is a genetic thing, and like you said, it's kind of a hodgepodge of genres. Like you said, it's a cannibal film, but it feels like a cannibal coming of age film, if anything.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, that's a good I don't reference. I don't want to say analogy. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Uh, the coming of age film is a good way to kind of. Oh shit! I don't know what that was. My voice was cracking. I'm way too old to have my voice cracked. But but I think that there's a lot of movies that I've watched that deal with parent child relationships, like the father daughter ones, because I have you know kids and my biological children are girls, and I those movies always strike up a soft spot in my heart. But this one is different. It's like a family struggle, but you don't really exactly know what the struggle is until closer to the end. And the relationship between the sisters, that I thought it was great, because then it became more of it, trying not to get too far ahead.
No, that's fine. Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at the very end, when you find out uh, the mom was also part of the bloodline of essentially the exact same cannibalistic tendencies, that it you see the family. The sister was she sacrificed herself. She went to jail. She took basically the murder rap, went to jail so that her sister would be okay. And all these things where it becomes a very tight knit family movie all the way until like the last 2 minutes. Like you really aren't sure what's going on, and then it just ends. Which, and me and Brian have talked about this 100 times, and all three of us have been in the same room and talked about horror movies. I think if they're done correctly, they don't really necessarily have a complete ending. But this movie, it ties up the story. It made everything make sense, and gave you some closure. So it was a great full movie where it's you establish this family, and then you establish that the sisters don't necessarily get along, and one basically tries to fuck one over, but then by the end she sacrificed herself for her, and you find out that the mom started all the. It's so well told that by the end of it, when it just ends, it it completed to me like a full circle, but it's a full movie. It's a great start to finish, well told singular story.
So was it the mom? Because I thought like towards the end that he was describing the older sister and everything with the scars.
No, I I mean, granted, it wasn't. It's us reading it, so the interpretations might be different. But when they were walking through the bottom part of the college, and they were looking at all the old pictures of everybody basically getting carried when they were all
Oh,
getting
I see
blood
what you're
thrown on
saying.
them, she showed a picture of her mom,
Yeah,
And
both
look how
the
happy.
parents, they met at the school as well.
Yeah,
And his lip, he mentions how when he first kissed her, he learned about her truth. I
yeah,
guess
and he
she
kept
bit
rubbing his
his.
lip, and his lip was missing. And
Yeah,
remember, the youngest daughter, whose name I don't remember. Uh,
Justine.
yeah, there's Justine and Alexis is the sister.
Yeah.
But Justine tried to bite that dude's lip off, and she fucked him up. So, I just based off of what they showed us, I was assuming that the mom was very similar. She
Because
something the same.
the implication in the end seemed to be him telling her, "This is what it is. Me and your mom make it work.
We,
You got to figure this shit out." You know, he basically tells her, he's like, "You'll figure out a way." I mean, that's sort of the tragedy of it. There is no talk of a cure or a way to end it. It's more of a, this is what it is. You got to figure out how to,
And
deal with
yeah,
it.
yeah, and that was an extra bit of horror there at the end. I think, just the idea that he's like, there is no salvation from this. You're just this thing. And it also explains a lot of, her mom just like forcing her to eat like mountains of vegetables. And she's like, I want you to
Eat your
eat all.
broccoli.
Yeah, right. Because towards the beginning and in the middle, I was like, God damn, she's very hardcore about this vegetarian thing. She's militant about it.
well,
And
yeah. I'll go ahead and finish later. I'm sorry.
well, I was just saying, I didn't think it fit into the story at all. I just thought, she was that person because, I think we all know that person.
Well, yeah, and she's training to be a vet. So for her to, love animals and try to be to where she doesn't want to eat them made 100% sense. When they first brought it up, I was like, okay, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But oh shit, dog's getting ready to lose her shit here in a second. But uh, but it made sense 100%. So for them to tie that into the story, the mom basically forcing vegetarianism on them because I think she didn't want her kid to be exposed to it. Because once she started having those withdrawals or whatever, because she was fiending for human meat, I guess, her sister was saying you need nutrients, like you're going to have to give in. So I think the mom's way of giving vitamins and nutrients was basically overloading them with, antioxidants and vitamin C and
The,
everything else from the vegetables.
the movies seem to also portray, an actual physical transformation as well. Because after she consumed the kidney or whatever it was, we had the skin breakout and, the itching, which, we had the vomiting of the hair sequence. She kept sucking on her hair. Um, she constantly said she could never be full. She's like, no matter what she ate, she just couldn't be full. And so she was literally sort of transitioning. And then we sort of get the idea. And the film never spelled, and that's what it's just very well made. It never actually just says stuff to you. It's there, and you got to sort of try and piece it together. But then the sister, also clearly having gone through these things, as well. Let's talk about the finger scene. I got legit nauseous, and I watched the whole thing, and I'll tell you why I got nauseous. Um, for beautifully shot from the shocking moment of her cutting her sister's finger off by accident and you knew what was coming. I mean, it was completely telegraphed. You knew what was about to happen, but for her to take the finger over, she's looking at it. She starts sucking the blood out of it. The music, amazing music piece. She nibbling the bone and the meat off the bone. It looks so real. The blood on her face, the ecstasy in her eyes. She's loving this moment. Her sister then slowly getting up and seeing it, and the tears in her eyes, which actually had more importance later in the film when you realize those tears was more of a, oh my God, you're like me. Um, I don't know. It was just the way she nibbled the meat off the finger. I was killing me. You're right, Spencer. I usually these things don't bother me, but for whatever reason, that scene, it was really bothering me.
It didn't
It
bother me
was.
at all. I thought it was great. I wasn't laughing. It was like you said, it looked real. It was well done. The actress, she was 18 when they filmed this, so she was super young.
Yeah.
So for her to like eat it like she was fiending for human meat, I think it felt real. It, you know, we talk about movies where you have to suspend disbelief to kind of be into it, but that that one felt real. Like I didn't have to suspend anything. It felt like it was real. I was like, damn.
It felt a little too real because I absolutely had to stop the movie at that point for a minute and just kind of.
I would have loved to have watched it together.
Yeah.
When that scene was happening, that was in my mind. I was like, I wish Larry was here.
I stopped right there. I stepped away from it for a couple of minutes, and I thought to myself, I'm like, if this is the whole movie, if the rest of the movie is this from here on out, I'm like, I don't know if I can make it, but soldier through it. I think the finger scene was the worst scene, to be honest, but like you said, Spencer, in a way, also kind of the best because it's very well done. God, that was rough.
No. The hair was the worst for me. The hair, because like
The king sound.
giving herself the hairball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that was because everybody has had hair in their mouth. Like it doesn't taste great. It's it's gross. So then when she starts like coughing it up, and then I was just like, okay, she just got a little hairball. And then it lasts for like, it's like a 2.5 minute scene of her just pulling hair out of her throat and just puking. That one to me, as far as like the body horror kind of stuff, that one was the hardest one for me to get through. It wasn't the her eating a finger or biting her sister. Like none of that bothered me. Her trying to eat the uh, Adrian, like when all of that stuff, none of that bothered me. But her hacking up a hairball made me a little nauseous.
Adrian, let's talk about him. Those are the three leads. You have the two sisters, and then you have Adrian. And Adrian is the roommate. And I'm assuming they never outright say how old anybody is. I know based on looking it up, Justine's character is 16. Now, like you said, the actress was 18 when she shot the film. But this is a veterinarian school that you go and you study, and I guess you live there, and I guess you learn the trade, young. But he's in it. Yet again a sort of a tragic character in that he's sort of mixed up in this whole thing and becomes a victim. And there's this weird dynamic between both sisters and Adrian, and it's never really clear how they feel about each other. And you could say he wants to be more of a friend. He's not looking for any kind of relationship at all with them. But then I was very confused. What does Justine want out of this? Because at one point she's sort of getting possessive. But then I thought, well, maybe it's more protection because she is fearful of what her sister might do to him. So I don't know. Any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the school in general, I think, was one of the biggest surprises for me because you figure trade school, I didn't expect it to get as wild at that school as it did.
Yeah, fuck that school, man. For real. And I mean that in terms of the hazing week. Like that is bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've gone to a lot of colleges, and like I don't know any frats that are as bad as being at that school apparently because it was all the freshmen that came in that had to go through that.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy for a trade school.
It was the fact that it was a week long and that a lot of these things, I mean, it was wild. It was nonstop. And like you said, it wasn't like they had they came and were pledging to be part of a house. No, like this is like, no, I want to get an education and I'm a kid. I'm 16. I come here and they're just like, well, guess what? This is all the shit you got to go through.
Well, yeah, and it seemed like the staff and the professors and everything, like
completely
they're well
complicit.
aware of it. Yeah, complicit and aware, and nobody gives a crap. That this could not happen in our country at all.
Yeah, I text Brian when I first started watching it. I said, "You said something about the haze," and I was like, "Bullshit! There'd be no fucking way." I said, "As soon as somebody would have woke my ass up or checked my bed out the door, I would have just started whooping ass. I wouldn't. All the getting paint poured on them and do this.
Yeah,
Like
your exact text was, "I've beaten people up for much less than what's happening in this."
yeah, and 100%, I would have started swinging because, like you said, Larry, you're going there for an education. Like, and I understand the want to be part of a group, but those are like you said, the sororities, fraternities, the different branches of sport teams and stuff. Because I played rugby for right at 10 years, and there's this thing called the Zulu. So the first time you ever score in a game, you have to run a Zulu, which is you run butt ass naked. You run and you got to do something stupid like touch the goalpost, do a cartwheel, something dumb, and then you run back and someone steals your clothes and they pour beer all over you, and it's big ha ha ha. That's the hazing part. But that doesn't happen while I'm trying to get an education. That doesn't happen while I'm applying to school to try and be a doctor. Like I played a sport, and it's just weird for that to be a focal point of that school, is that everybody was hazed.
And it happens for a week. Like you were saying, it happens for a week at a trade school. Yeah, I'm just curious. Like, are trade schools just that wild in France, or
They might be, dude. I don't. We're talking about wild. That rap song she listened to when she was looking in the
I was
mirror,
dying.
dude. Those lyrics, I was like, oh my god, like that shit was so. You talk about raw. That was the raw. I was like, I want to know who this is. Like, I need to know. Um, and it's funny because I thought it was foreshadowing some stuff that ended up not happening, because there was a lot of stuff about um physical interactions with corpses and stuff, and then there is a scene where they go to the morgue, and that scene was rough, but it was nowhere as bad as I thought it was going to be. I was like, oh no, what are they about to do? But yeah, that song was fucking nuts.
Yeah, I need to listen to more French rap music apparently, because holy shit, like the
yeah,
French 3-6 Mafia or something.
Yeah.
those lyrics were surprising as hell. Like, they caught me off guard too. Just
I thought so going back to sort of the idea of monsters or werewolves, or something like that. It was interesting, we get a shot at the very beginning of this someone causing a car accident. And there's no like explanation, and then later it happens again, and we learn that we have Alex teaching her sister essentially how to capture prey. And I thought that was it. I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. And she's showing her how to feed, and a little technique she learned, to cause an accident and then feed off of the victims. But yet again, going to sort of the sister relationship, she's like, okay, you're part of this. We're this, and let me show you how I've been, dealing with it. But yeah.
yeah, and all this death happens, just because their mother refuses to address it at all. I mean, I feel like she could just talk to them and could have solved all this. Instead, the older daughter becomes sort of estranged and an outcast because her mother just behaves very strange and forces vegetables on them and everything, and they have to find out that they're whatever they are the hard way, and they barely seem to know what they are. So it's their parents' fault in a very real way.
Yes.
Like, you have to wonder how many people
I-
Alex has killed because of that.
Yeah, I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm trying to find the song. But
Oh.
I got very singularly focused there for a second. But how many, like you said, Alexis has done for her to get the person to wreck their car and go after them. And you open the scene where you open the movie where she's walking and then lays in the middle of the road. How many times, like you said, Larry, how many times has she done that? Like, how they talk about the mom, how she figured out by basically going through the dad and eating off pieces of the dad that she was able to figure out a way to deal with it. apparently Alexis's way of dealing with it is causing fake car crashes and then eating people. So
Yeah, and you at first you just thought, okay, well, overall you thought, or at least I thought, that the family overall was just very normal, and the younger child was, as they presented it, the golden child. But now it just seems more like uh, the older one was probably pretty normal up until all this happened to her, and and she's doing the thing she's doing because she's become this thing, and she's got no explanation, and it's just her life spiraling. It's like she's not solely the villain; she's a victim in her own right.
Yeah. Well, that's so. I keep saying the name of the movie, the Ginger Snaps, but that's sort of that film. There's a lot of similarities in this movie and that film. Really good. It's a Canadian film. They made like 3 of them. I saw the first 2. But it's sisters, and it's sort of the idea of it's a curse essentially, because it's like, oh look, this is what I am. I've got to do this. I don't want to, but I have to, and then having to deal with that and the consequences of that, and that's what that series is about. And this film is very much reminded me of that. And speaking of siblings and sisters, there's a fight in this movie. So
Shit,
well
yeah.
done. Let's take the cannibal thing and push that to the side for a second. Anyone who has siblings has had brawls, and this is, these are 2 siblings who are angry at each other, and they're going to fight. And then you layer on top of that they're essentially these creatures or whatever. We'll just say cannibals. They start eating each other, literally. I mean, when she takes a bite out of Justine's face, rips a chunk out of it, I'm like, oh my god, there's no fixing that. Um, Hell of a scene.
Yeah. Not only do they do that, but it's that they do it publicly also. So it's like the whole campus seems to be there, and they're biting chunks out of each other, and people are trying to restrain them, with by just grabbing them and basically essentially forming leashes around their neck and pulling them both back, like they're animals. And it's to some degree, it felt very much like a cat's out of the bag moment. Like there's no going back now. The world kind of knows that something's not right about you.
Well, in my opinion, when the sister basically takes the fall, Alexis takes the fall for killing Adrian and what happened to him, because there's pictures of his leg being half eaten, and there's a lot of things that transpired as far as that murder case. But to me, when people were videotaping them fighting each other, her biting her face, her doing all these things kind of strengthen the case against her, which I think helps Justine in the end be able to not take any fault. But leading up to that last scene, now the dad's telling her, well, this is what your sister did, this is what your mom does, you got to figure that shit out, because there's no going back now.
Did y'all catch the eye licking scene? It's a real quick. There's a quick shot at one of the parties, and somebody is licking someone's eyeball.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, wait, what? I was like, what the hell?
That was Alexis, I believe.
It's just like, what is going on?
I immediately just assumed acid.
Yeah, yeah.
Because people used to drop acid and put it like on their eyeballs, and
that also explains why she parties so hard too, because it's a weird dynamic, because you normally don't see like a character that parties as hard as she is and is trying so hard to be numb, and yet seems to be so professional when they're going and doing their classwork and everything. Because whenever you see her in like an academic setting, she seems like she's going about it very professionally.
Well, yeah, it especially about halfway into the film, both sisters get to that point of, it's like they're trying to numb what's going on. So yeah, lots of alcohol and different things. Like when he's pouring that drink for Justine, I believe that was vodka.
Yeah.
But he was pouring it like beer, like it filled the glass to the top. And she just starts chugging it. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, she was chugging it like water.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, I have my list of all the disgusting things. We have the skin itching. We have the hair vomit. Oh, the Brazilian wax.
Oh
That
God.
was
This is what another scene that you're just like, ah.
Yeah, that was rough to watch too.
Just hair being ripped out of the body is always difficult. But that's what led to the finger, getting cut off because, it gets stuck and then, but yet again, this was also a really interesting scene because we're going back to the whole sister dynamic. She's talking to her sister and she's like, oh, well, you haven't done, she still had like hair on her arms. And she's like, well, you got to clean that up and, let me show you. And of course, it led to her kicking the shit out of her while she was holding these sharp fucking scissors, and it chopped her finger off.
Yeah, that whole scene, like you said, I forgot that those two were the same scene with the waxing and the finger and everything. Yeah, two most.
We go from pissing to waxing to finger cut off to eating finger. That was all like one somewhat of a sequence.
Well, shit, the whole thing made me think. I'm like, well, I was definitely thinking at that point, I'm like, these sisters are way too close. She's giving her Brazilian wax and everything, and they're just way too close.
I love the pissing scene. That was funny too.
That I was dying because, I mean, I'm curious now.
Yeah. She was like, I'll show you how. And then, she completely failed miserably.
Just pisses her pants.
Yeah, that was great. But yeah, all those scenes. And then, once she sees her eating the finger, that's sort of the movie changes after that into something different. But oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was glad you mentioned that early on too, because of what it actually meant when you find out the truth that that they're the same, and she's horrified because her sister has to deal with this. But in the moment, not having context, it seems like she's crying because it's a betrayal, and that the acting in that scene is just very well done.
Yeah, there's so many times, this movie hit my radar a couple years back, and I wanted to watch it. Matter of fact, there was a time I was going to buy it, and then it was on Netflix, and it just sort of joined the million other movies that I haven't watched yet. And I was like, I'll get to it eventually. And every so often you get a film like this where it's sort of got a buzz. Everybody online is like, oh, it's great. It's this really clever horror film. And occasionally it works out, and occasionally it does not. Hereditary being an example. I saw some comments actually saying this movie should have been called Hereditary.
That would have made more sense.
It's funny because we reviewed Hereditary and got destroyed in the comments and likes versus down votes or whatever, and I still stand by it. I thought the movie was funny. It was not to me, it was not a horror movie. It was almost like a scary movie, or it wasn't quite that bad, but it was almost like a parody of a scary movie. And I don't know. I just really did not like it, as opposed to this, which was legit Hereditary. And
because there was a couple other films we reviewed. So you had and I'm clumping these together because these are sort of small indie horror films that, like I said, have somewhat of a buzz online. You had Raw, The Black Coat's Daughter,
which I love.
The Autopsy of Jane Doe, Hereditary.
Not good.
And you're right, The Black Coat's Daughter, loved it. Loved Autopsy of Jane Doe. That's one of my top horror films, probably of the last decade, maybe. I really love that movie. This is in that league too. I think Raw is really strong, but then you end up with some movies that you're just like, what what was the hype for? But this is one I think earns it. I think all the little buzz, all the conversations. This is one where I'm like, yep, that is that's a good one, or at least one that I would recommend.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. And I think it speaks volumes that I definitely wasn't in the mood to watch a movie when I sat down to watch it, and you know how, like Spencer said, you know how squeamish I am about body horror, and yet I powered through the whole thing. In fact, I got a little pissed off when I got interrupted a couple of times during it. So I was very into this one. Definitely lives up to the hype.
The filmmaker, she just made a new film. Look it up really quickly. It's another one that's getting a ton of buzz.
Called Raw.
It's not called. It's. God damn. It's not. I don't believe it's a sequel in any.
They call it Tatany.
It's Titan. Yeah, it's like Titan.
Titany.
Tiatane.
That like negatively towards like French because it's clearly French, but
something
I don't know how to pronounce that.
Something our dumb Southern American brains can't figure out.
Exactly. Titan.
Oh shit, Justine? No, dude. It's a sequel.
It is it?
Unless they're basically just keeping characters with the same name, because it says Alexa's father. The girl.
Oh shit!
In the first one is called Justine.
It is a sequel.
Alexa is in it. Yep, it sure is. Holy shit!
I didn't. I legit did not know that. I heard about this film. This film, is another one that people are like buzzed about. Oh, it's really cool. I'll be damned. It's a sequel. So yeah, shit. We're gonna have to watch this and review it.
I guess we'll be checking that out. Absolutely.
Is it out to stream? How can you watch it?
I'll tell you in a second.
We will figure that out. So yeah, I guess there's a sequel or something like that of Raw, and I guess we'll be doing that in the near future. I'll buy it if I have to.
Unless it's a Christopher Nolan type thing, where there's always someone named Cobb. Or
yeah, just sort of a similar, yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe, but all the same. It's like Alexa. You can rent it on pretty much anything, but it's not streaming for free on anything.
Okay. Was it on Blu-ray?
It's all the way up into 4K.
Hell yeah, dude.
It says watch now in SD, HD, 4K, free, not available.
4K. It's the only way I watch things. Not true. But yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, any other thoughts? Anything else about Raw?
No, I'm looking into this other movie to see what the fuck it's about.
Yeah, I'm just surprised there's a sequel. Whether like I wonder if it takes place is it in the prison with with the older sister, or are they doing a little bit of showing how everybody's lives turned out? I don't know. We're definitely gonna have to check that out.
I'm watching the trailer. I'll tell you in a minute.
But, yeah, cool. So yeah, that's it. Awesome. Anyone who is still listening, we appreciate it. Like I said up front, if you haven't hit the sub button, please do so. A lot of other content coming on the channel. Very much excited for Dexter starting up here this week. Like I said, we do Big Sky. We got Wheel of Time right around the corner, a couple weeks out. Very exciting. And give us recommendations. Like I said, these sort of cool little indie horror films we're typically into them. So if there's something out there that you know of and we have not mentioned it, put it in the comments. Maybe we'll look into it. So yeah, thanks for listening, and we will see y'all next time.
Bye. Ass.
Bye.